Welcome to the Social Chameleon Show, where our mission is to help you learn, grow, and transform on your path to becoming legendary. Today, I want to talk about Stoicism, timeless wisdom for modern life. This is a little different of a book review episode. I want to kind of go over. I've been kind of trying to figure out a way to do a Stoicism episode, and I thought, what a great way to do my normal book review episodes, but on Stoicism. So this is going to be a bit of an overarching thing, and then I'm going to recommend books to read. So it's not going to go over one book in particular. I'm going to go over the overarching theme of Stoicism, and then at the end here, I'm going to give you guys a bunch of books and resources and things to kind of dive into this topic. I think, the mission and the basis of the show is built on these Stoicism principles. I base my life on these principles. I think this is one of the most monumental things in my life that I learned. It brought together a lot of different things. And I want to introduce this to you guys that don't know. And some of you guys that do know, maybe we can, learn a little bit more, find some references, get in the comments if you're into this, if you're just starting to dabble, if you've been in it for a while, bring the conversation along, introduce people to your favorite maybe books or references. I mean, there's been a definite resurgence in Stoicism, maybe over the past, let's say maybe 10 years or so, give or take. So I know a lot of you probably are into different groups and communities. I'm doing research for this episode. I found a lot of different things I wasn't familiar with. So without further ado, let's kind of go into this here. I'm going to go through a whole bunch of different things, kind of talk around Stoicism, talk about it. And then, like I said, at the end here, we'll get into book recommendations. Introduction here. Stoicism is an ancient philosophy, is around 2,300 years old, from a Greek philosophy. Its core premise is simply yet powerful. By focusing solely on what we can control and living with virtue, we can achieve inner peace and resilience no matter what life throws our way. And that, I think, is the power and the core of this thing here, is understanding all these things. I'm sure you guys have been around for a while. If you're not new to the channel, new to the podcast, I talk a lot about these things. I talk a lot about this stuff. I've got tons of things. If you on video here behind me, this is Marcus Aurelius' quote: "Stop wasting time arguing about waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." I have an Epictetus poster over here. He was definitely my favorite. Coincidentally, as I started learning about this, I found a lot of Stoic people kind of around my house. I didn't know that. I've got a bunch of coins here on my desk that goes through all the different things from Ryan Holiday. He did a great job making all these different coins. There's just so much great core principles here that we're going to come to find out here. There's a lot of basis in psychology, modern day things, a lot of different thought leaders and stuff like that. A lot of these guys are going to come from these points. This concept of understanding what we can and can't control and living with virtue, this is what I love about it. And this is how I've kind of started I base my life around this for the years now. What we can expect here to learn today, I'm going to introduce Stoicism origins, key figures from ancient thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, to modern advocates like Ryan Holiday and Massimo Pigliucci. I'll break down Stoicism's core principles. It's focused on logic, virtue, and understanding one's mind, and share practical Stoic exercises you can try each day. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions, which is a common thing people think, or being apathetic. By the end, you'll see how this philosophy's combination of rational and compassion offers timeless guidance for handling adversity, managing emotions, and pursuing what really matters. And I think this is why this has stood the test of time, because it is just so kind of intuitive. I don't like the word common sense, but I think we all kind of can grasp the meaning of that. There's no such thing as common sense. What's common to you isn't common to somebody else. But if we can just maybe use that word for now, I think this is why this has stuck around for well over 2,000 years, and it constantly comes up and comes up. The sad thing, I think, though, is like it tends to seem as us as humans is we have a hard time learning from history and learning from the past. If we would have embodied these principles 2,000 years ago, I think the world would be a very much different place today. Because as you're going to come to find out, and you're going to understand, like, this, a lot of this stuff could be written in modern day things. And I think this is why some modern people in this space, like Ryan Holiday and whatnot, have had a flourishing career, because these things are timeless and they hold up to the test of time. But what we need to do here is, I think what I'd like to hopefully get across to you is, if we can take these things and learn from the history, learn from these guys, we can really have a, step change forward, and not regressing so much back to old and different things. So here, section 1 here, part 1, origins and key figures of Stoicism. Founded on a porch in Athens, Stoicism began around 300 BCE with Zeno of Citium. Sorry, I might mispronounce things. However I know how to say them. Who started teaching philosophy in Athens at the Stoa Poieki, which means painted porch, which is how the school got its name. And the origin is, a famous legend says Zeno was a merchant who survived a shipwreck, then discovered philosophy by accident in a bookstore. He later joked that he made a precarious voyage, losing all his wealth, because the disaster led him to wisdom. From the start, Stoicism was about using reason to guide life, not just abstract thought. Zeno established that Stoic philosophy would have 3 areas of study: logic, physics, and ethics. I think this is what makes this so appealing to people, is the fact that it's not philosophical. It's not the trolley problem. It's not these esoteric things. It's not these abstract one-off things that don't really have a basis in life, or really a good framework, whatever, like a lot of philosophy seems to do sometimes. Is these are all about, practical things that help bring your life along, help guide you, like they're saying, with virtue, right? This is kind of the major thing. Logic, the way they talk about the logos, this is how they talk about these things. And a lot of modern psychology is based off of these principles, which is very, very interesting. It's just so funny how, this guy shipwrecks, loses all his fortune, and then starts this, basically worldwide phenomenon in a way, right? Of Stoicism. So we have here, from slaves to emperors. Stoicism later flourished in ancient Rome, proving its appeal to people from all walks of life. The Roman statesman Seneca used Stoicism while advising Emperor Nero, which I believe from my understanding, he was kind of not a good emperor. He was a kind of a horrible person, and Seneca tried his best to use Stoicism and whatnot to help kind of lessen the burden, lessen the impact of his craziness. If you're familiar with Jocko, he kind of talks about, this is what it reminds me of. When Jocko's like, you got to be in there, you got to influence the game. You can't, try and talk crap from the outside or whatever. You got to be in there, and you got to influence from the inside, and you got to slowly kind of work these things in there. I think it feels like this is what Seneca was trying to do. And Epictetus was a former slave, turned revered Stoic teacher. And I believe that's not even his name. I believe, from my understanding, Epictetus actually means slave. So I don't know what his real name is, but this is who he's referred to. And I think he's one of the more famous ones. This was Emperor Marcus Aurelius, from my understanding, his favorite Stoic philosopher was Epictetus. And then we have probably the most famous person, and was Marcus Aurelius, practiced Stoicism devotedly while ruling the Roman emperor. Each of these figures left behind writings that illustrate Stoic wisdom: Seneca's letters and essays, Epictetus's discourses and handbook, and Marcus Aurelius's private meditations, a diary of his Stoic reflections. These works, remarkably, were not textbooks, but personal exercises in philosophy, showing Stoicism was meant to be lived. Marcus Aurelius's meditations, for example, was never intended for publication. It was his way to remind himself to be patient, virtuous, and mentally strong each day. Such Stoics writings are still widely read because they speak to perennial human struggles, how to face fear, anger, success, and failure with clarity and compassion. And that's the thing that I kind of thought was just the most amazing part about Stoicism. When you hear about Marcus Aurelius, the emperor at the time, he was the most powerful person on the planet. He could just do anything and whatever. And his meditations was his journal. If you do read it, or you hear about it or whatever, it's him reflecting on his day. It's him going through these things. And A lot of stuff he seems to quote Epictetus the most, and that seems to where he draws a lot of his things from. So that's the fun thing about this is you're just taking a peek into these people's things. They were just telling people, giving people ideas and giving philosophies and stuff, especially Marcus Aurelius. He's just talking to himself, and from that we can glean how he was thinking about things and how he was trying to live and how he was trying to be. There's tons of fun, different stories about all that. And then we have here what I like to refer to as the big three. Roman Stoics, Epictetus, the former slave. His main focus was on what is within our control. And in Seneca, he was a playwright, statesman, and advisor to Nero. He mostly wrote on ethics, anger, grief, and the good life. I feel like Seneca's a little bit, maybe a little bit on the darker side, maybe more pessimistic or whatever. And different people gravitate to him because of kind of that style. And then, of course, we have Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, maybe considered the philosopher king. His reflections on meditations, duty, resilience, and cosmic perspective. And then I think maybe one of the more overlooked ones I really have found to be really good was Musonius Rufus. I really liked his book. It has like a maybe Epictetus vibe, which is why I like it. Epictetus is my favorite. I wonder if I knew about Epictetus when my son was born, if I would have named him that. But I really enjoy him. He is definitely my favorite, and I can see why Marcus Aurelius also seems like he was his favorite as well, even though they never met. But he read Epictetus's work, and in Epictetus he didn't write anything down. I'm not sure if he knew how to write or not. So he just taught classes basically, and so all the writings and things of Epictetus is from, I believe it's just one of his students or several of his students. It's their notes on what he wrote down. So that's the only surviving work of him versus Seneca and Marcus Aurelius. The writings we have are their actual writings, their actual work. And so, like as we talked about, earlier, these individuals came from a very vast and different walks of life, facing immense challenges, yet they all found wisdom in Stoicism, illustrating its broad applicability. Like I said, this is the fun thing about this, and I think I'm probably going to reiterate this 10,000 times. This is what makes this so appealing, is you can come at it from so many angles, so many different people from so many walks of life. Part 2 here, the core principles of Stoic philosophy. Bear in mind that the measure of a man is the worth of the things he cares about. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. Let me re-say that again. Bear in mind that the measure of a man is the worth of the things he cares about. Right? Reflecting the Stoic focus on values. The first thing here, we have virtue is the greatest good. Living with excellence. At the heart of Stoicism is the conviction that living virtuously is the only true requirement for a good life. Think about how we think about that nowadays, right? Possessions, different things like that. We're going to kind of get into that a little bit when you think what a good life really is. And sometimes it's hard. I've talked about this, and I know people talked about this, and I also remember back when I was younger, I didn't understand this, right? We think that money and possessions and things are going to solve our problems or make our life this. And it's hard to understand that it's not the case unless you've kind of gone through it, right? That's the thing. So, I've been, I think I grew up middle class or so. And I thought that too, you're getting younger. It's about collecting things. It's about grabbing the Jordans, grabbing the fit, grabbing the Rolex, getting the cars, getting the house, right? Having the money, making a certain amount of money. And the funny thing is, unless you do that, you don't realize how unimportant it really is, how much it really doesn't change your life. If anything, you just get different problems. There's always struggle. There's always problems, right? There's always things. It's just different. So, unfortunately, I think it's just one of the things most people have to go through in order to understand that it's kind of unimportant. But maybe through this, we don't have to do that. We can kind of skip that step and understand that these things actually don't matter. And we'll kind of talk more about that. The Stoics thought that external success or failures, wealth, health, fame, etc., aren't what makes us genuinely happy or fulfilled. Only our character can. And then we have the 4 Stoic virtues. We have wisdom, practical judgment, the ability to navigate life rationally and to know what is and isn't good. As Cicero put it, the man who has virtue is in need of nothing, whatever, for the purpose of living well. Wisdom helps us choose our actions and attitudes well, disguising what truly matters. Wisdom helps us choose our actions and attitudes well, disguising what truly matters. Oh, man, this is where stuff gets very interesting, very thought-provoking. And we have courage, not just physical bravery, but mental resilience. And that's key here, right? Courage is thrown a lot around, and I feel like it's lost its meaning. I mean, we need to go back to what's truly there, right? It's not just physical bravery, but mental resilience, facing fear, pain, and adversity with strength. A Stoic tries to transform obstacles into opportunities for growth. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, wrote Marcus Aurelius. Ryan Holiday has kind of switched that up to a little bit, saying here, he's got a great coin with this here, for those who can see. The obstacle is the way, right? And there's some other things like, I think there's these things kind of come up in other different philosophies and religion, right? All things and through the way or something along those lines, right? But that's the thing, right? The impediment to action advances action. Your obstacle is the reason you're moving forward. That's the advanced action. When you come up against something, right? This is what gets you thinking, get your brain moving, right? That advances the action. What stands in the way becomes the way, right? What are you struggling? What are we doing? What are we scared of? Whatever the things, a lot of times these are just stories in our heads. These are beliefs, whether you made them yourself or unintentionally or intentionally, somebody that loved you or cared about you or thought they were doing the right thing, put these in our head, right? What stands in the way becomes the way, right? How can we get through this? How can we push through? How can we jump in the ice bath? How can we jump in the sauna? How can we eat better? How can we exercise, right? These are things that stand in the way. But if you understand the impediment to action advances the action, these things do not become your obstacles, right? They become the pull and the gravity and maybe the motivation or the discipline to move forward. Then we have justice, doing the right thing by others, being fair, benevolent, and honest. Stoics saw all humans as equal citizens of a common world, deserving of respect. Marcus Aurelius himself worked for the common good, even when others were difficult. I believe Seneca talks about this. When there's a human being, this is an opportunity for good. These are the things I think this is a powerful message nowadays, right? And it's not just justice, maybe in necessarily the legal or technical term of how we maybe think about this is, justice for something, right? Well, how can we do right by other human beings, right? How can we do right by other things? How can we be the change we want to see? How can we be the example? How can we be the leader? How can we, be the example, right? How can we stop arguing what a good man should be and just be one? Show everybody, show them the way. And have temperance, self-control, moderation, and self-mastery, the discipline to control impulses and appetites. This means enjoying life's pleasures in balance and not being ruled by cravings or fear. If you seek tranquility, do less. Do only what matters essentially, Marcus advised, linking simplicity to peace. I've been kind of mulling around with this a little bit. There's moderation. I think I'm gonna do an episode on this later on. This is what I've kind of come around to. It seems like there's two different kinds of people. There's those that can exercise in what the classical maybe thought and definition around moderation is, where you just have a couple of things here and there. You have a drink once in a while. You have a piece of cake once in a while. You do these pleasurable things seldomly. And then there's people like me where I can't. Well, I don't want to say I can't. I'm not good, or I haven't learned to moderate myself. If I got a pack of Oreos and whatever, or I'm not really into Oreos, but I got a pack of Reese's peanut butter cups. I just can't eat one of those. I'm gonna eat the whole thing. So my philosophy or my way of of implementing discipline to myself is I don't buy those things. I don't do those things. I'm not the kind of person that can go out and just have a drink, whatever. I want to have a good time. I'm gonna have a lot. So the way I practice moderation is I don't do these things at all because I guess I just must have not. Maybe I have an addictive personality or something like that or whatever. I don't like leaning on those types of reasons or excuses. I just probably need to work on more of the discipline side of things. But to me, my discipline for that is I'm just gonna abstain altogether. And that works great for me. And it seems like from the research and the different things that people I've talked to and the things as I think through this thing about moderation, it seems like there's two types of people, those that can, adhere to moderation, the classical thing with the way we think about it. And the other extreme of moderation is abstain. And that's the camp I think I like to fall into. And it's easier for me. My sister, she's really good at it. She can have a box of chocolates and she'll have one and she'll put it away and whatever. I'll eat the whole box. I'm a fatty. But that's how I think about things. And this is when we're introduced these ideas, we've got to see how am I, how am I now? What are my goals? What are my intentions? And then how do I set up my environment? How do I set up my life? How do I make discipline automatic? How do I make these things better? How do I do these things, right? And that's where you figure these things out when you introduce these ideas and you internalize them and you start to design your life the way you want it. This is when you understand yourself, what you need to do, how you need to motivate yourself, you need to set up yourself for moderation, how you need to set up yourself for discipline, how you need to set yourself up for all these different areas of life. Why virtue? For Stoics, cultivating these virtues is both necessary and sufficient for happiness. Interesting, right? Cultivating these virtues is both necessary and sufficient for happiness. External outcomes aren't entirely up to us, but our intentions and actions are. External outcomes aren't up to us. We're looking for external validation. We're looking for praise. We're looking for attaboy. We're looking for a good job. Those aren't up to us, right? But our intentions and actions are. This is what I love about Stoicism, right? Accountability, understanding where you are in this cycle, where you sit in the world, where you sit in things. External outcomes aren't up to us, but our intentions and actions are. By making those as noble as possible, we live with integrity and inner freedom. Even if fortune turns against us, a virtuous person can maintain dignity and calm. This idea was radical. It meant that a poor, sick individual could still lead a flourishing life by still lead a flourishing life of fulfillment by executing in virtue. Epictetus boldly said, "No one can truly harm you by hurting your body or possessions. Only you can harm yourself by acting against virtue." Stoicism's first lesson is ethical. Focus on becoming a good person, and happiness will follow. Because happiness is internal. It is you. It's within your control. I believe there's another thing. I'm not sure if it's Epictetus or Seneca or somebody said something along the lines of, you can never imprison me. You may imprison my body. You may shackle me and constrain, but you can never take my mind. You can never imprison my mind, right? This is what we're talking about here. You can be sick. You can have these things happen to you. You can be born with these different things. But if you don't allow yourself to fall into these traps, fall into this victim status, this victim mentality, and understand no one can truly harm you by hurting your body or possessions. Only you can harm yourself by acting against virtue, right? Nobody can do anything to you. It's your interpretation of what happened or what is said. A lot of times, like we were saying, this is because of your belief system, right? So this is when you have to understand happiness and all these things are internal, right? Things on the outside can contribute to these things. You can set yourself up to do these things. But like we said from the beginning here, right? Cultivating these virtues is both necessary and sufficient for happiness. Okay. And then number 2 here, the dichotomy of control. And this is probably my favorite part of Stoicism. What we can versus what we can't control. Perhaps the most famous Stoic teaching and the foundation of their philosophy is to distinguish between what is up to us and what is not. I think kind of a common way we talk about this now is it is what it is, even though that can feel a little bit dismissive. That is kind of the core of this. And we'll get into some more of these things around this topic a little bit later on here. Epictetus in his handbook, Enchiridion, I'm not sure how to say that. I will link to this book, is really good. With this stark reminder, some things are in our control, others are not. He lists things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion. In short, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control include body, property, reputation, command, and in a word, whatever are not our own actions. That's funny, right? He says body, right? A lot of times we think, our body is in our control, and a lot of times it's not, right? It's like like I said earlier, right? I could be imprisoned, right or wrong, doesn't matter, right? I can be kidnapped. I can be detained, right? But if I understand that that is not in my control, I don't necessarily have to worry about that thing. I have to worry about what is in my control to get me out of that, or to help me through this, right? And we'll talk about, I'll recommend this book again later on, but Courage Under Fire is I think it was a Navy pilot. He was shot down, and I'm not sure if it was Korea or Vietnam. It's been a bit since I read the book. He had read Epictetus, and he had a copy of it with him. And this is how he got through that, understanding they may have control over my body, but they will not take control over my mind. And it's a great short little read, maybe 20, 30 minutes, definitely an hour. And he talks about how he got through that. And this is the principle he used from Epictetus. And then Stoic teaches that suffering often comes from misidentifying these. We get upset by external things we never truly controlled in the first place. Say that again. We get upset by external things we never truly controlled in the first place. A Stoic tries to consistently remind himself, is this within my power? If not, let me accept it calmly. If yes, let me do my best with it. This mindset, called the dichotomy of control, is incredibly empowering. It doesn't mean passively. Instead, it refocuses your energy on where you can make a difference, your own attitudes and actions, and it helps you release worry about the rest. I'll link to this, my research document here. My research assistant, Chad, also known as ChatGPT, the research, it'll go through all this in a lot more detail. And I'll have footnotes and links to different things for you guys. If you're interested in digging down more into these things, finding the references and whatnot, I'll link to this document for you guys. And you can dig through this and really dig down into this. And then we have serenity and freedom. As Epictetus said, if you stop demanding that uncontrolled events conform to your will and instead embrace whatever actually happens, nothing can ever truly disturb you. Instead, embrace whatever actually happens. Nothing can ever truly disturb you. Imagine we internalize that, right? And here's a classic kind of example of this here. The origin of the serenity prayer idea: grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't control, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. This is the exact same concept, right? In Epictetus' own words, he says, you will find fault with no one and reproach no one. You will have no enemies and no one will harm you, for you can't be harmed. How powerful is that? You will have no enemies, and no one will harm you, for you can't be harmed. Do you imagine how much better your relationships and your life would be if no one could harm you? If you weren't harmed by all the dumb shit on social media, if you weren't harmed by the dumb shit on the news, if you weren't harmed by the dumb shit in the world, if you weren't harmed by the guy cutting you in line, if you weren't harmed by these things because they don't matter to you, because, and not in a passive or dismissive or maybe even you might even think a weak way. No, it's strength, it's power, understanding, right? I embrace whatever actually happens. Nothing can truly disturb me. You will find fault with no one and reproach no one. You will have no enemies, and no one will harm you, for you can't be harmed. Imagine the strength that lies in that. It's like the epitome of sticks and stones, right? It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what you do. And this reminds me of something else that the Stoics talk about. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but somebody was talking shit about them, and they're like, "That's what they said? Man, maybe they don't know me then." And they could have said a whole lot more stuff, right? Could you just imagine that mindset? The comments don't bother you. The shit talking don't bother you. The idiots at work don't bother you because you can't be harmed. This is the power of Stoicism. All these principles. This sounds almost too ideal, right? But even practical progress toward this attitude can bring tangible relief from stress. Modern cognitive psychology recognizes this Stoic insight as well. It's not events themselves that upset us, but how we interpret and react to them. How we interpret and react to them. By focusing on what we can control, we avoid wasting energy on futile rage and or anxiety. And we achieve a kind of invincibility of the mind. Would you like to have an invincibility of the mind? Do you disagree with that? You may fitter my leg, but not even Zeus can break my freedom of choice, Epictetus said. And he actually had his leg was all, beat up or whatever it was from being shackled as a slave. From my understanding, not one time did he complain about that. Not one time did he use that as an excuse for anything. And all Epictetus did was classroom or teaching. So you just imagine that. This guy is a slave, and the first thing he wants to do is, I'm going to go out there and teach everybody. Even though I was a slave, they never could take my mind. They never could do these things to me. Epictetus reflected on his past as an enslaved man. A Stoic sees true freedom as the freedom to choose one's attitude in any situation, a concept that has inspired everyone from prisoners of war to people battling personal adversity. And this is what I talked about, right? Encouragement to fire. This is where his inspiration was from Epictetus and from his teachings. 3, Stoic logic and the mind, using reason to understand emotions. The philosophy of rational action. The Stoics were psychologists ahead of their time. They believed that human emotions largely arise from our judgments, our thoughts or impressions about events. They placed huge emphasis on the training of the mind, using logic, reason, and honest self-reflection to examine whether our beliefs are true. Honest self-reflection to examine whether our beliefs are true. Stoic logic is what we call today critical thinking, cognitive science, and even mindfulness. And this is at the top of the show. I start every time. We're here to train your mind. We're here to help you train your mind. This is where this comes from. This is where I got these ideas from. This is where I live this here. Our mission is to help you learn, grow, and transform on your path to being legendary. Right? This is where this comes from. Training your mind. This is the most important thing you can do. If you're in the gym and you're eating well and you're doing things and work, but you're not training your mind, you're not delivering the full package. You can't elevate yourself to that next level, to that, what I would like to talk about is to that legendary status, to becoming legendary, whatever legendary means to you. That's the piece we all need to do. This is the mental reps we need to be doing. We need to train our mind using logic, reason, and honest self-reflection to examine whether our beliefs are true. They taught by examining our automatic impressions, we can catch distortions and avoid hasty, irrational reactions. Daniel Kahneman talks about this concept in Thinking Fast and Slow, right? System 1, System 2. System 1 is that quick reactionary things. Not a lot of thinking going on. It's just, habits. All the different kind of cliches, right? When, all the experience we've had from life, right? All these different things where you just make quick split reactions, but we take a breath and we take a second to examine our automatic impressions and even change them, right? We can catch distortions and avoid hasty, irrational reactions. A Stoic would advise pausing to ask, is this really terrible? Is my peace of mind worth giving up to this person's words? Perhaps the insults say more about them than about me. This kind of rational check can diffuse the surge of anger. Taking that breath. What's happening here? That old kind of saying, hurt people, right? Are you letting a hurt person hurt you? Are letting these silly comments to maybe get attention or make themselves feel better bother you? As Mark Aurelius wrote in his journal, your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought, for the human spirit is colored by such impressions. This reminds me of another Stoic thing. If you're walking down the road and somebody, stole something off of you, so somebody took $100 from you or whatever it is, you would do everything you can. You would be furious. You'd go after them. You would get that money back. But you allow somebody to steal your mind. You allow others to color your thoughts. You allow people in without examination. We all do this without training, right? Without training of the mind. We allow these things in. We allow us to fall victim to these things. We allow these things to distort our life. We allow us to get upset about these. We allow anger. If you spend a lot of time in anger, in stress, or the news seems to do this, and it's not just the mainstream news. It could be social media news. It could be podcast news or whatever, right? If you're constantly in a state of fear, this affects your sleep, and if it affects your sleep, it can lead to depression, right? It can lead to this low level of anxiety. It can lead to this low level of stress because you're allowing others to color your thoughts. Because we're not protecting our mind like we protect our wallet, so like we protect our body. Because we need to train our minds. We have to do these things. We have to examine our automatic impressions. It's not things, but our opinions about things. The Stoic view of emotion is nicely captured by Epictetus' famous statement. People are not stirred by things, but the view they take of things, right? In other words, an event like losing your job or being stuck in traffic has no emotional value by itself. It's our belief that makes it upsetting. We can change the belief or evaluation. We can change the feeling. How many times have we sat in traffic and just been mad at traffic? What did traffic do to you? It happens. Are you upset because you're going to be late? Well, why are you going to be late? Because of you. You didn't plan for the possibility. You didn't maybe check the traffic. Whatever it is you need to do. Would it be better for you to maybe leave 10 or 15 minutes earlier and maybe get where you got to go 10 or 15 minutes early, or is it better to be like, you know what? I fucked up today and I didn't prepare for traffic. I didn't prepare for a flat tire. I didn't prepare for these different things that happen to us. Therefore, I shouldn't get mad over it. It's my fault. And either I'll just continue it being my fault and I'll just do nothing about it, or I'll train my mind, train my body, and I'll discipline myself to put into place contingencies to be better. I will take responsibility for my actions and not get mad at a line in the store or traffic or a guy cutting you off, right? This insight is extremely modern as well. It's the cornerstone of cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Dr. Albert Ellis, a pioneer of CBT, openly credited Stoicism and Epictetus in particular for this idea. The Stoics 2,000 years ago effectively observed the link between thoughts and emotions, and they developed techniques to manage destructive feelings by disputting false beliefs. They didn't say suppressing your feelings, a common misconception about Stoicism. Rather, they said emotions follow our judgments, so we must train ourselves to judge wisely. Right? I was just listening to a podcast just happened to Sam Harris he had on one of these modern Stoic writers, and he was talking about this, about the CBT and these things. I kind of forgot what I was thinking about that. I'll move on. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself that the wrongdoer does not realize what he's doing. All men are brothers, so forgive them. Right? You can even be all people, right, are humans, so forgive them. They know not what they do. A lot of times, like we're saying, right, if you're not training your mind, these are automatic things. These are our habits. These are our beliefs. These are things that just happening. System one, it's just automatic. You're not even thinking, you don't even realize you're doing it, right? Train your mind. Just forgive them. I cut you off. Hey, buddy, go right ahead. I want to jump in front of your line at the store. Yeah, go right ahead, man. It's not a big deal. Fear and anxiety similarly can be tempered by examining them rationally. Is this in my control? How likely is the worst case scenario? Could I survive it? We suffer more in imagination than in reality, noted Seneca, pointing out that our anxious fantasies usually exaggerate how badly things will be. The Stoics practiced calming their imagination and focusing on facts. I've said this before, and I'll link to it in this episode as well. Tim Ferriss has got a great little worksheet on fear setting. What are you afraid of? Right? And I know we'll get to it a little later on here. There's a Stoic exercise for this. What are you afraid of? Let's go through all the worst case scenarios. Let's do it. Your brain wants it. Our brains are tuned for finding out dangers, surviving on a savanna, right? Don't fall off a cliff. Water's that way. The cliff's that way. The edge is over here. All these things, right? The bad tribe is that way. Like, this is what our minds are doing, right? I seen lions over there. The tiger was chasing me, right? This is how our minds naturally are. And let those thoughts come. And then when you take the breath, because you're training your mind to say, how likely is this going to happen? Okay, let's say it does. What's the worst case scenario here? What happens? Will I be okay? Can I survive it? Can I make more money? Can I get another job? Whatever it is, right? If I become homeless, what's the big deal? Like, can I do that? Can I stay in my car for 2 weeks? What are you going to do? If another natural disaster comes through, or maybe it's some kind of pandemic or something like that, and like food becomes scarce, right? Or people start hoarding things like they did during COVID, right? Well, am I going to be okay? Can I survive on what I have? Can I get myself down to just beans and rice? Can I get myself down to bread and water? Like, what? Can I practice fasting? What's the big deal, right? And it's not to, like I said, it's not to be dismissive. It's not to be passive. It's not to be whatever. This is where the strength lies. Understanding your power. And when you understand your power and you have the power and you choose to not wield it, that is the thing. When you choose not to be angry, when you choose not to be vindictive, that is true power, right? That is the things like Jordan Peterson, I think Joe Rogan and stuff has talked about these things, right? You fear the man that doesn't kick your ass because he can, and he knows he can, but he's disciplined and self-controlled enough to know this is not how I need to conduct myself. This is not the thing. Versus the idiot, I just see red, I just beat everybody. That's a fool. That's not strength. That's not wisdom. That's not a trained mind. That's not disciplined, right? The Stoics practice calming their imagination and focusing on facts. Apatheia. The ultimate goal of Stoic mind training was apatheia, which is not apathy in the modern sense, but an ongoing state of equanimity or inner peace. It means being free of passions that that push us around. Things like frantic greed, blind rage, paralyzing fear, obsessive lust. A person in apatheia still feels things. Stoics are often very empathetic and joyful in their writings, but they don't slave under those feelings. They experience more stable and internal emotions. The Stoics even described good feelings. I'm not sure how to say this Greek word. I'm going to skip it. The Stoics described good feelings that the wise person enjoys, a righteous joy, love, caution, etc., aligned with virtue. Feeling love and concern for humanity, or joy at doing the right thing, or healthy aversion to vice, these are all encouraged. How true is that, right? When you help somebody, even if you're doing it for yourself, it feels good. And it feels good to them, right? The joy in doing the right things, not being that guy that passes the problem, that passes the rubbish on the ground, or not being the guy that's filming instead of helping. These are the good things, right? The joy in doing the right thing. What Stoics warn against are the wild, ungoverned passions based on false beliefs, like envy born from the false belief that someone else's success takes away from mine, or despair from the belief that a temporary setback is the end of the world. This is something I think we hear a lot about, right? We're complaining about the billionaires. We're complaining about the 1%. We're complaining about this class of people, right? Envy born from the false belief that someone else's success takes away from mine. It does not. Having that abundant mindset, understanding there is enough to go around, right? Things are not futile. Things are not things. Having that mindset of the long term, right? Simon Sinek talks about the limitless game, or the endless game, something like that, whatever. That long term thing, right? There is no end. There's no goal, right? It's this long term thinking. Someone else's success doesn't take away from yours. By using our faculty of reasoning, we can separate fact from opinion and thus stay serene. This is why Stoicism emphasizes logic so much. Clear reasoning is a defense against panic, self-pity, and confusion. Marcus Aurelius often writes like a coach to himself, using reasoning arguments to talk himself into a Stoic mindset where he feels discouraged. In one entry, he basically performs a CBT session on himself, reframing a stressful situation. Today, I escaped anxiety, or rather, I dismissed it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. The reminder allowed him to remain calm. Stoicism holds that our mind is immensely powerful in shaping our experiences. And if we can learn to direct our mind using logic and wisdom, we gain a deep form of control and tranquility. And that's the thing that's really kind of amazing about his journal, is this rich, most powerful man in arguably the world at the time. He goes through his struggles. He talks about where he fucked up today, and how he could have been better, and about being better, and about doing these things. He's talking to himself. He's not writing a self-help book. He's not writing a manual. He's not teaching a class. He's not selling a course. He's the emperor saying, man, I'm glad I'm studying this stuff, because these people pissed me off today. This was bothering me. I was worried about the Antonine Plague. I was worried about the wars I was in. I was worried about the famine of my people. Whatever it was that was bothering him that day, he was able to take a breath, go inward, and figure out what was happening. So powerful. And that's the thing, which probably people love meditations the most, is because it's his journal talking to himself as a powerful, powerful man and humbling himself and understanding his mission, understanding his virtues, understanding what he stood for, what he wanted his kingdom to stand for. And 4, here, living in harmony with nature, acceptance and providence. Cosmic perspective. Stoicism is not all about inward focus. It's also about how we fit into the larger world, what they call nature. The Stoics believe the universe is governed by a rational and providential order. They called it the logos, or universal nature. Everything happens according to this nature or fate. And while we can't change the grand scheme, we can choose to align ourselves with it. Stoic said, living according to nature became a Stoic motto, meaning living in accordance with reason or human nature and with acceptance of the way the world is. In practice, this means accepting reality rather than complaining that it isn't how we wish. If it rains on your wedding day, the Stoics' response is, it's foolish to rail against the sky. Better to embrace what happens and make the best of it, because the rain follows nature's law, not our desires. Amor fati, love of fate, is very much a Stoic idea. Marcus Aurelius advised himself to see every event, even misfortunes, as the unfolding of a larger rational plan, and to say yes to it as necessary and natural. And I have that coin here on my desk. I just absolutely love it. You know, as you say on Vito, amor fati, not merely to bear what is necessary, but love it. Imagine adopting, when you adopt this mindset, things happen, right? But if you want to change things, you know what to do. We don't complain about it, right? We work within nature. We live in accordance with the way the world works, with the way your country works, the way your government works, with the way your municipality works, whatever it is. And you play the game and you do what you got to do to implement change that you want to see, right? You don't complain about it, talk shit on the internet, and do nothing. Stoics are heavily into in this concept of politics and stuff like that or whatever. And, you know, being the change you want to see, right? Doing these things. Like Jocko talks about too, right? You want to influence the stuff, you got to get in there and you got to influence from the inside. You can't talk shit. You can't sit in the sidelines. You want to influence things. You want to do these things. You've got to get in there and do what you got to do. You got to play the game. Making the best of everything. Importantly, acceptance for the Stoics does not mean resignation or fatalism. It means cooperating with what is while still exercising your will vigorously. As a Stoic farmer, for instance, accepts that a sudden frost ruined his crop. No amount of anger can change that fact. But then he rationally pivots to whatever we can do, maybe planting a new type of seed or tightening his budget. By accepting the frost, he avoids wasting energy on why me, rage, and instead adapts. This mindset was summed up by Epictetus' phrase, do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do. And your life will go smoothly. Rather than trying to control the uncontrollable, adjust your wishes to fit reality. This leads to contentment. And not in a negative way, right? If you stop wasting your energy and time on wishing and hoping and praying things are going to go the way you want them to go, understand they're going to go the way they're going to go. And if you train your mind and you have discipline and you have contingency plans or whatever you need to do, say these things can happen, the weather can be shitty, the fucking freeway can be clogged up, car can break down, whatever, things are going to happen. Things happen, right? Now think about probability, think about odds, right? You know, oh, it's 86% that this is going to happen. Well, guess what? There's 14% that's 24%, whatever it is, that it's not going to happen, right? But sometimes it's hard for us to think about the things, right? You know, I think a good example of this is, you know, watching poker, right? Like, oh, it's 76% chance this guy wins. And the guy loses. You're like, what the heck? They're supposed to win. Well, yeah, but there's another percentage that he doesn't, right? Annie Duke is great explaining this, right? Backcasting and all these different things, right? We're understanding shit's going to happen. Can I control it? No. Can I plan for it? Yes. No. Can I influence it? Yes. No. Can I have contingencies? Yes. No. Right. Go through these things. And you don't have to worry about stuff. Your life will be smooth. Stoic acceptance is an active process. You choose to embrace whatever happens. You choose to embrace whatever happens, making it part of your story and responding with your best self. Marcus Aurelius said that a fire turns everything thrown into it into flame. Likewise, a Stoic can turn obstacles into fuel for their virtue. What stands in the way becomes the way. Interconnectedness and duty. Living according to nature also has a moral dimension. Stoics saw all humans as part of a greater whole. We are children of the same universe, endowed with reason, and therefore brothers and sisters. Embody that. Treat everybody. We are all part of the greater whole. We are all children of the same universe. I don't care what magical border you think you're on. We are all of this world. We are all the same universe. Therefore, everybody is your brother and sister, and treat people so. Marcus often reminded himself to work for others. The Emperor of Rome. The Emperor of Rome reminded himself to work for others, to forgive flaws, and to fulfill his social roles honorably. This man can do this. We all can. Stoicism often critiqued as isolated or unemotional, but in truth, many Stoics are deeply involved in family and community. To do good for others is to do good for yourself, said Marcus. Even Epictetus, who renounced material attachments, took care to nurture his friends and students. Stoicism encouraged treating others with justice and kindness, not because emotions command it, but out of rational understanding that we are all in this life together. This is why a Stoic tries to be patient with difficult people. They are ignorant of good and evil, Marcus says. So it's as natural as they err as that a fig tree produces figs. I, who know this, can't be angry at them. He also has another famous saying along these lines of, I'm going to wake up this morning and there's going to be, I'm going to paraphrase very liberally here. I'm like, this morning's gonna be a bunch of assholes and dicks, and people are gonna be rude, and people are gonna do this, and people are gonna whatever. And that's okay. That's the way people are. It's the way of the world. It's the nature, right? I'm not gonna get upset about it. I'm not gonna get mad about it. I'm not gonna let it bother me. Fucking Tammy in accounting's an idiot. There's idiot people. Maybe she's had a bad day. Whatever it is. Maybe she's just an idiot. Who knows? It doesn't matter, right? You know. Every day you wake up, every time they're going to be jackasses for the rest of your life. We can't let these people take up mental space. We can't let them color our thoughts. Flexibility and belief. Stoicism has an interesting intellectual flexibility. While they did believe in a cosmos, later Stoics and modern ones acknowledge you don't have to accept a literal Zeus or fate to benefit from Stoic ethics. Whether or not the universe is objectively just or rational, it's wise to behave as if it is, to play our part the best you can and accept what you can't change. As modern Stoic philosopher Massimo Pigliucci notes, Stoic principles still hold value even if we set aside ancient physics or theology. Stoicism endurance is partly due to this adaptability. It offers core practical truths about human psychology and virtue that transcends any specific cosmology. Philosophers through the ages and diverse religions have been drawn to Stoic ideas because they address universal acceptance of human condition. The Stoics themselves were open to revising details of their doctrine in light of new knowledge. One attractive feature of Stoicism is that it wasn't dogmatic. They debated and refined their views over centuries. This makes Stoicism less a fixed set of commandments and more a living philosophy, a framework that can evolve, but always with the aim of improving human life through reason and virtue. This is what I remember from that podcast. That he was talking about these guys being so advanced in human psychology 2,000 years ago that these famous psychologists and stuff we know about, Freud and Nietzsche or something. I can't quite remember the people, but in the 50s, and they didn't even have this figured out. This never came across their minds. They missed out on this stuff, right? This is how enlightened these people were back then. This is how, and it's the thing, right? They were open to changing their mind when faced with new knowledge. That is the key, right? To being open-minded to changing your opinions. Not this bullshit, oh, you're flip-flop. Good. This is what we're supposed to do when we get new information. We update our beliefs. We update our processes. We update ourselves. Because why? We are training our mind. When we're presented with new knowledge, we evaluate it. We even debate it, talk about it, we implement what makes sense, what is practical, what is in line with our virtue. But you have to have these principles, you have to have these thoughts, you have to have this foundation. So when new knowledge comes, you can evaluate. This is the craziest thing I ever heard. A friend of mine telling me, which I don't even understand how you can have this thing, said, I don't want to learn about new things. I don't care what that book said. I have my opinion already, and I don't want new information to cloud that. What? That makes zero sense in my brain, right? So don't stop learning. Don't, just because you're done with college, you're done with school, just because maybe you're a master at your craft, don't stop learning. When there's new knowledge, talk about it. See what's up. They debated and refined their views over centuries. All right, section 3 here. Stoic practices and daily applications. Stoics likened philosophy to a gym for the mind. It requires practice and exercise to strengthen our moral and mental muscles. Premeditatio malorum. The Stoics advise consistently visualizing possible challenges and bad things before they happen, not to be pessimistic, but to prepare the mind. I said, I got all the coins here. I just love these, right? Sitting on my desk is constant reminders. The terms of our human lot should be before our eyes. Exile, torture. What else to say here? Shipwreck, war. What are the possible challenges? What are the bad things that can happen? And prepare the mind. Got to get in the mind gym, right? So I had a constant reminder sitting in front of me on my desk all day long. I love these coins. Ryan Holiday, what an absolute stud for making these amazing idea. I absolutely love it. And we have mindfulness of the present moment. Confine yourself to the present, wrote Marcus Aurelius. Stoicism teaches that much distress comes from ruminating on the past or the future, which we do not control, instead of living fully now. By consistently returning attention to right here, right now, we align with reality. How much effort and energy, and I do it too. I replay the conversation in my head. I should have said this, I should have said that. But when you're aware of these things, you can catch yourself, right? Like meditation, this helps. Catching yourself in the moment. Like, oh, I have the thought. Okay, I can't go back in that conversation. I can learn from it. I can have a post-mortem. I can think about what happened. I made this decision. I made this investment. I made that move. I made this thing. I went left. I should have went right. I can post-mortem think about these things, and an ability to train in my mind and to understand what went wrong, what went right, how do I make things better. And that's the thing, when things go right, we also have to understand what happened. Did I make the right decision and things went right? Did I make the wrong decision and things went right? That's equally as important, right? A lot of times we chalk up the good to, oh man, that's why that happened. A lot of times that is not the case, or cannot be the case. Daily reflection, morning and evening. Self-reflection was a cornerstone of Stoic training. Stoics would typically begin each morning by preparing their mind and end each evening by reviewing the day, a habit described by both Marcus Aurelius and Seneca. In the morning, you might set intentions. What virtues will I exercise today? What challenges am I likely to face? How will I meet them as a Stoic? Marcus, for example, reminded himself each dawn, today I will meet busybodies, ingrates, egotists, liars, and cynics, all due to their ignorance of good and evil. I can't be hurt by any of them. I will not be angry or look down on them, for we are made to work together. How powerful and enlightening is that? I will not be angry or look down at them, for we're made to work together. I know I'm going to encounter a busybody, ingrates, I'm not sure what that is, egotistics, liars, cynics, all due to their ignorance of good and evil. It's okay. People aren't as far ahead on the journey, on the path as you are. That's okay. But we are all made to work together. We help them out. We work on the community. We help in the community. We help our fellow human being, because we are all brothers and sisters in this universe together. And in the evening, Stoics would scrutinize their own behavior. Seneca describes lying in bed and examining his conscience for the day. When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen asleep, I examine my entire day and go back over what I've done and said, hiding nothing from myself, passing nothing by. He would ask himself questions like, what did I do well? Where did I slip? Did I let anger, envy, or fear get the better of me? How can I improve tomorrow? This nightly audit, done calmly and without self-flagellation, was intended to gradually polish one's character. This takes 5 minutes at night. Maybe you get home from work, maybe after dinner, maybe for you, a part of your bedtime routine. What did I do well? Where did I slip? Because we all make mistakes, right? Did I get angry? Did I let envy, fear get the better of me today? How can I improve tomorrow? That's the key question. How can I improve tomorrow? Because you're polishing your character. You're working out the mind, right? This is not crazy, but it's profoundly impactful. You just imagine if you just took a few minutes every evening to just review your day. And a lot of times what I found is it stops the rumination. It stops this loop in your head, because you've let it out of your brain. Your brain's like, okay, it's handled. Well, we've taken care of this. I don't need to let it go on and on and on, because we've taken care of it. And it can release that. And a lot of times it can help with sleep. You know, if you're ruminating over things, if you're worried about stuff or whatever, this is a great practice for that. And then we have probably one of my favorites, voluntary discomfort, training for adversity. How we so avoid adversity, how we so avoid discomfort. But as we learned, right? Impediment to action advances action, stands in the way becomes the way. Voluntary discomfort. We're training for adversity. As the saying goes, I know it from the Navy SEAL, so I think that's how I understand it. We don't rise to our level of expectation. We default to our level of training. We've all had the thought, maybe we all still have the thought of when time comes, I know I'm gonna step up, whatever, right? I'm gonna be the guy, I'm gonna do the thing. But if you're not training, It's not the case. We default to whatever the minimum standard is, whatever the minimum level in our body is, whatever's ingrained in there, not what we know, philosophically or theology or from books or from whatever we've seen, on TV or something like that. We have to train. My idea is covered training for adversity. To cultivate courage and non-attachment, Stoics sometimes deliberately practice hardship in controlled ways. The idea is by practically abstaining from pleasure or enduring something uncomfortable, when you don't have to, you toughen your spirit for times when you have no choice. Seneca famously advised his friend Lucius, set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, is this the condition that I feared? I have practiced this. It's very enlightening, right? What is it you fear? The scantest and cheapest fare. Or what are you worried about? Sleeping on the ground? Wearing shitty clothes? Let's take a couple of days out of this, right? Are you worried about eating shitty food? Like, when you practice these things, and we haven't done it in a while. I feel like everybody's kind of got the point by now. We did it for a couple of years. The last Sunday of the month, we ate beans and rice. That's it. That's what we're doing today. We're not fucking around with all this nonsense, And I did it before COVID. And the funny thing was, when COVID came around, my kids thought I was crazy. My son kind of liked it, whatever. My daughter was like, this is ridiculous. This will never happen. I'll never be poor. I never have to worry about food. That's ridiculous. We live in America. And when COVID came around, people were, hoarding things and whatnot, this, that, and another. This training came into absolute practice. It's like, holy shit. I'm not worried about these things because I practiced. I had the things. I wasn't worried about the scantest and cheapest fare. I wasn't worried about close and rough dress. I wasn't worried about it because I practiced, right? Simple things, right? Do you live in a place where there's natural disasters? Are you prepared? Can you go with this? Maybe that's your training every year. We're going to have hurricanes and we're going to be out of power for 4 days. And this is the time we're going to take our training. We're prepared. We know what to do. We're going to, sleep on the floor. We're not going to have air conditioning. We're not going to have refrigeration. We're going to have to, barbecue outside. We're going to have to pop open cans and just eat cold food. What is your thing? And then I've done an episode on this one because I think it's just a very powerful thing. Memento Mori, I'll link to the episode if you want to go back, as I talk about the whole concept of that. Is contemplating mortality, right? Far from being morbid, Stoics found that regularly reminding themselves of mortality was one of the most life-affirming practices. Memento Mori is Latin for remember you must die. Epictetus put it bluntly to his students: keep death and exile before your eyes every day, along with everything that seems terrible. By doing so, you will never have a base thought nor desire beyond anything beyond due measure. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about how his life is but a moment, and that we should not put off doing or being virtuous, since all we really own is the present moment. He also suggested a specific exercise, which he learned from Epictetus. As you kiss your son goodnight, your child, we could say, whisper to yourself, he may not be alive in the morning. The first time I read that, man, I cried. I was like, I can't imagine going in my child's room, kissing them goodnight, and be like, they might not wake up tomorrow. Kissing your spouse, they might not wake up tomorrow. Kissing your parents goodbye, they might not make it home. You might not make it home. But what I learned is, and I didn't like thinking about that. I never liked thinking about my own death. But when I started learning about Stoicism, I started thinking, you work out your shit and you understand it's not that bad. It's not something desirable, but like it says, it becomes life affirming, right? You understand, as Marcus says here, but the present moment. And then Seneca, in his letter, also says, let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the end of life. Let us postpone nothing. When a man has said, I have lived, every morning he arises is a bonus. Are you thankful and grateful that you woke up today? And I don't mean that in any kind of way, but have you thought about that? A lot of people don't wake up every morning. People go to sleep and never wake up again. Have you contemplated that? Is your shit in order? Are you doing what you need to do today? Or are you fucking off? Now sometimes fucking off is what you need to do today. But is that a conscious choice? Are you sucked in by Netflix and TikTok and whatever, right? When you have your audit tonight, are you going to be satisfied that you lived today? You did what you had to do. You were a kind human being. You lived these virtues. You did these things. I hope so. And if not, it's okay. Start now. When is now a good time? And then I'd like to touch on, as we come to a conclusion here, some of the modern Stoic leaders. I think Ryan Holiday is probably the most famous. He's got like 7 or 8 books on it. He did one for each of the Stoic virtues. I will link to those things. They're fantastic. The coins he's got different Stoic like challenges and stuff. He's very prolific in this area. To me, I think he's the most popular one that's kind of maybe spearheaded this resurgence in Stoicism and whatnot. I'll link to his stuff. You guys check him out. And then Masaccio Pigliucci, also very prolific in this area as a modern Stoic leader, thought leader in the space. Great books I'll talk about in a second here, and I'll link to those things for you guys. William B. Irvine, also fantastic. Tim Ferriss, we got from with Mr. Timothy Ferriss. He talks a lot about this. He produced the audio book, the Seneca one. I can't off the top of my head, but I will link to it. It's a 3-part thing. He's really into it. He talks about it on his blog. He references it here and there. He talks about it on podcasts and whatnot. And then I think somebody maybe wouldn't be associated with Stoicism, but Robert Greene, I know he is a fan of it from my understanding. He does talk about it in his books. And he talks about a lot of these historic figures. That's where a lot of his books come from. I would highly recommend reading his books, 48 Laws of Power, Seduction, War, Laws of Human Nature, all great things. I think these are, to me, who I refer to now in the modern world for these guys that are kind of continuing this on, continuing the thought, right? Continuing the discussion on this as we had said earlier, right? So in conclusion here, the timeless appeal of Stoicism. Stoicism has survived for centuries, not by chance, but because its core message resonates across time. Every human being, regardless of circumstance, has the power to choose their attitude, to act with virtue, and to find meaning in hardship. Stoicism empowers you to master your inner world. Stoicism helps convert adversity into growth. Stoicism grounds you in value and integrity. Stoicism offers solace without superstition. Stoicism builds community and compassion. Stoicism endures because it inspires action. And then if you want to dig into these books, I put together a list of what I think are good introductory books. Sometimes the classics, the right from the horse's mouth, is a little weird, okay? And that's fine. It makes you think instead of somebody else that kind of thought for you, so that's kind of cool. I will link to the classics, Meditations from Marcus Aurelius, Letters from a Stoic from Seneca, the Enchiridion and Discourses from Epictetus, and then one of my sleepers, Asunius Rufus, Lectures and Sayings. That's a real quick little read, but I think some good intro books if you want to kind of dip your toe into this and kind of get an understanding for this. Breakfast with Seneca, A Guide to the Art of Living. That's a great little accessible read. I absolutely love it. The Daily Stoic, 366 Meditations on Wisdom, also with the journal, I think is very powerful. It's a quick little paragraphs. It's got the Stoic thing, and Ryan Holiday writes a little thing about it, and then there's a journal that accompanies each of those days. And you write a little bit about this is your opportunity to set your intentions for the morning and evaluate yourself in the evening. That's how that journal's set up. Great way to get into this. And my entry to this, from my recollection, was Ryan Holiday's. I believe I heard him on, I don't know if it was Tim Ferriss or Noah Kagan or something like that. I heard Ryan Holiday, and then I think he was just coming out with Ego's Enemy, or maybe it was out for a little while. But Ego's Enemy and Obstacle Way, was my foundation to getting into this. And the funny thing is, when I learned about these people and I started looking around my house, I found Seneca quotes and Epictetus quotes and Marcus Aurelius quotes. So I think that's why it resonated with me, because just in life coming across these guys, and I started reading about them, I'm like, no wonder why I like these guys, right? I know why I like those quotes. And then if you want, there's a great little box set that comes with the Ego's the Enemy, the Obstacle's Way, and The Key. So those three is, I think it was his first 3 books. And it's kind of like a nice little set that's going to really set you up with a good foundation here. Another great one here is A Guide to the Good Life, the Ancient Art of Stoic Joy, A Handbook for New Stoics, How to Thrive in a World Out of Our Control, 52 week-by-week lessons. That one is like a journal in a way. You go through and you do the lessons every week. There's a thing, and you go through every day of that week, and you have your lesson, and you go and you practice. It's a great way to practice, like we talked about, right? It's all about the practice. It's all about the implementation. It's all about getting better every day. This is a fantastic way to do that. Easily go through each of these things, nice digestible things, nice, easy to work through exercises. It's absolutely great. And then the Practicing Stoic, that is something kind of similar, where everything's kind of broken down nicely and whatnot. And if you want to get, I guess, the whole set of Ryan's books, there's a 5 collection set and an 8 book set, which also includes the Daily Dad and whatnot. And so that I'll link to those for you guys. And then some things like I talked about earlier, right? Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl. He was he was a psychologist or psychiatrist or something like that, or whatever, in the Holocaust. And when you read this, this sounds very similar to Stoicism. I don't remember if that's where he pulls from, but this is something very small, quick read, definitely within an hour. You can knock through that and get you kind of set up in this area. You can just go understand what this man went through and what he saw, and understanding how he took that and he understood the meaning, life's meaning and whatnot, and different things from that. Amazing. Courage Under Fire, like I said, I talked about a few times in the episode. That's the one about the pilot was shot down, and he was a huge fan. He studied Epictetus. And then, of course, I'll link to the classics for you guys. I'll put a link to my research document if you guys really want to dive into all the resources and the kind of the full text of this and whatnot. And then I'll link to my Goodreads with all the Stoic books I've read. If you're interested in picking through and seeing things I didn't mention here, maybe you've read all these already, and you're looking for more things. I've read a bunch. I think there's over 30. I don't think over 40 books, but there's a lot in there. If you're interested in that, looking for recommendations and things, all the books I've enjoyed. And then this week's challenge: pick one of these Stoic principles and spend the week embodying the philosophy. Reorient yourself and your mind. Don't play a victim. Don't blame things that are out of your control. Master one principle and start on the next. A legendary life awaits you. The path is seeking you. Now step on it and live with intention. And in closing here, what does becoming legendary mean to you? What does living a legendary life mean to you? Maybe said another way. This is what I've come up with. Becoming legendary means living a life of virtue and intention, entirely designed and chosen by me. It's not about status or validation. It's about mastering myself, aligning my actions with what I value, and living on my terms. Every choice is deliberate. Every day is mine. Becoming legendary means owning every damn piece of my life. You build it, you choose it, you live it. No excuses, no autopilot. It's virtue over validation, purpose over comfort, master yourself or be mastered. That's the game. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I really hope you guys, if you're new to philosophy, Stoicism, you jump in and you check out these things and you really kind of get into it. If you've been around Stoicism for a little while, I hope you found something to grab onto, maybe a new read or whatever. And if you've been around for a really long time and I missed something, please let me know. Throw it down in the comments or wherever you're consuming this at. And there are some recommendations. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to keep doing. I continue to read and reread and go through all these things. So please share those things. And as always, there's no paywall premium content to subscribe to. We give you everything up front and only ask if you found value in this episode. Share at least to other people. It's the best way to support the show. Best way to support your community. Best way to support everybody. Sharing the knowledge, sharing the wisdom and insights. And you can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or your favorite podcast player. For past episodes and links to everything we discuss here today, head over to the socialcommunity.show. Also, you can do the same on Substack. If you like that platform, subscribe, get on there, check out all different show notes. No paywall there, no nothing there. Jump in, check it out, subscribe, don't. It's there for you to do. So next time, keep learning, growing, transforming on your path to becoming legendary.